Now, as you probably know, we're walking through letters of the New Testament in a series called Sincerely. And I believe it is so important to not only dig into Scripture itself, but also understand the context and the reason why it was written. So last week we looked at 1 Timothy, and you know if there's a 1 Timothy, then there's got to be a 2 Timothy. You're exactly right. We talked last week about how 1 and 2 Timothy were both written by the Apostle Paul to his young apprentice, Timothy, who he had appointed to lead a body of believers in Ephesus. Now, Paul had been in and out of prison, and he was in prison when he wrote this letter, but Paul was certain that this time was going to be his last. And so he wrote to Timothy to give him some final instructions as a church leader and to ask Timothy to come visit him one last time. And so in this letter, Paul shared some of the same things he had shared in the past, that false teaching couldn't be overlooked, and Timothy needed to call it out and correct it. And so he reminded him that Scripture and that the message of Jesus is the only thing with the power to save, preserve, and strengthen. But Paul's most powerful words, in my opinion, were about suffering. He said that we as believers shouldn't be surprised by suffering. In fact, we should expect it. But God uses difficult seasons to strengthen our faith. Paul knew about this, right? I mean, he endured continual suffering and persecution, but he continued to be strengthened by God's goodness. He wanted Timothy, as well as you and me, to have that same assurance that no matter what the cost, sharing the message and the hope of Jesus is crucial and worth it. It's so cool how those truths still echo today, and I hope that knowing more about Paul's letter to Timothy gives you a glimpse into Paul's heart for training up the next generation of Christ followers. And that includes you and me.